Hello, beautiful people, my fellow Validans. Welcome to another How to Draw video. So, I know in my last videos, well, in some of my videos, I don't always put a spoiler tag. This one, well, here it is. Here's the spoiler disclaimer. Not that it's been a big issue or anything, or at least not so far, but I do feel like I should say that. And today we're going to be drawing Back to the Future. So, let's begin with Marty here. Okay, I have my Procreate pencil, I have my red color. Alright, everything's good. So we'll start with his face. Michael J. Fox, very popular actor during his time. Not that he's not still a popular actor, he's very well known for a lot of movies, especially the Back to the Future series here. So I actually rewatched this movie with my mother the other day. I mean, it's a lot more aggressive with the whole weird mother in love with her son thing than I remember. It's been a while. I haven't seen it in quite a few years, but it's still a great movie. Don't get me wrong. It's just watching those scenes where Lorraine, Marty's mother, is just so attracted to him. Watching those scenes, it was fairly uncomfortable, especially when I was rewatching it with my own mother. I had actually watched them with my grandfather along not that long ago. I guess it was maybe 2 years ago. I had rewatched the third one. No, I didn't do like a whole trilogy marathon or anything. I've been wanting to, but I just haven't. And yeah, if you guys have like Roku, I guess the Back to the Future is on Roku right now. So check it out. It's a really good movie. It's a famous movie. It's done really well for itself. It got a trilogy. It heavily inspired, if you like Rick and Morty, it inspired that adult cartoon series. And Rick and Morty's pretty good up until season 5, I think. I liked the first episode of season 5, and then after that, I just couldn't really like get into it. I have seen a little bit of season 6, and it's actually pretty good so far. I'm pretty happy about it. I think it goes back to the really good storytelling that Rick and Morty had in like the second and third season, where we get some more background on Rick and why he does things. And yeah, sorry. But anyways, Back to the Future though. It's kind of one of those interesting trilogies where they essentially do the same story 3 times with just slightly different settings. I think the third one has the most diverse setting. It takes place in the Wild West. We have Biff and his he's always, I guess, just the villain in these movies, which is interesting. I mean, not that it's not like that's a huge surprise, but what's surprising to me is how formulaic Back to the Future actually is, and yet it still manages to pull off like the stories. It does really well. It works. And I guess it would work for something that's dealing with time travel, kind of repeating these movie plots, repeating history multiple times, right? Trying to make sure it all goes to plan. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I I think the best parts of this movie is how well they try to do the continuity. So you'll see like signs change when Smarty changes the future, like the mall sign, it changes from Twin Pines Mall to like Lone Pine Mall or something like that because he knocks over one of the pine trees when he's driving the DeLorean around, and he's freaking out and stuff. And there's also, well, clearly the biggest change that occurs is with his parents, right? So after his encounter with his parents in the past, he comes back to the future like the title suggests, and he has a brand new life waiting for him. His family's not poor anymore. They're doing very well for themselves. He got this truck that he'd been wanting. And there's still that girl that's waiting for him that really liked him that he left in the other timeline, but clearly it's a it's a different timeline. It's not like it's the same timeline that he came from. Because if he actually went back to the same timeline he came from, his parents would not be wealthy. He would not have that truck. His family would be in a much different situation. And that's where all the fan theories come in, right? Everyone trying to determine, like, oh, well, what happened to the Marty from this timeline and stuff. And it seems to be pretty good agreement, at least right now. Let's make him a bit smaller so I could draw his legs. Yeah, a lot of people seem to be in agreement that um, Doc did a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to see, Doc Brown, to make sure that not Morty, Marty, to make sure that Marty could come back to I guess, the renewed timeline after getting blasted into the past on the other timeline. I don't know, it's not exactly very clear because clearly Marty changes things in the old 1955. Instead of his dad being the one that his mom finds run over, it's Marty that's run over, right? And that's what changes the timeline. Oh, I should make this more square. Hold up. Let me make this more of a square. Yay, that's a little bit better. But yeah, so because that changes, that's why he sent to this different 1955, because stuff in the past that was like, the standard have changed. So the only way for Marty to ever go back to his version of 1955 is for like everything in 19 I mean his version of the future, not 1955. The only way for him to go back to his original timeline, I guess, is for him to, I don't know. He has to go through a path where he doesn't change like anything in 1955. Where if he arrives in 1955, like a little bit before like his original version that gets there to stop that version from changing things, that's the only way he would go back. But as we can clearly see, there's really no reason for him to go back. His life is much better. He has the truck he's always wanted. His family's well off. His parents are confident and wealthy. They're like, and the children, their children, Marty and his siblings, they're all confident in their own way. They have their own stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like, I can see why he wouldn't put up a fuss on like, hey, this isn't actually my reality. Why am I here and not in my actual like future that I should be in, right? And that's where the fan theories go to say like Doc like either switched Marty with the Marty from that timeline that he comes back to, like he switched them, and so Marty essentially switched places with the rich Marty. So poor Marty and rich Marty like switched places because of Doc. I don't know if the Doc like threw like rich Marty onto a perfect trajectory though, because we clearly see at the end of the movie, Marty comes back a little bit before Doc gets, shot up by the villains. And we can clearly see the DeLorean like speeding away, indicating like, oh yeah, like that's the other Marty, the Marty that actually belongs to this timeline. That's that's the one that is actually gonna go into, well, we don't actually know where that Marty's going. We don't know if that Marty's going to 1955. We don't actually know anything. So that's why there's a lot of unanswered questions about where that Marty's going, and does he actually like trade places with our poor Marty? Like, does rich Marty go through a lot of the same events in 1955, but he does things slightly differently, or does he create like a new timeline? Like, there's a lot to think about, you know, when you break it all down. And then the other popular theory is that Doc Brown basically just made the rich Marty go bye bye. Like literally, he just like I don't know. He cornered him at one point, and maybe he threatened him and said, "Okay, you're gonna drive this DeLorean off at this speed at this time." Like you know, all this stuff, to make the conditions seem like perfect. And then I don't know, maybe he sent the Marty not even to 1955. He could have sent him anywhere, really. We just don't know. What we do know, though, is that none of it would be possible. Nothing in this movie would have been possible without Doc Brown's interference, and it's pretty interesting to see like how much power Doc Brown wields by the end of the movie. I actually, and there's people too, they complain about the lack of technology that we have compared to the Back to the Future movies. Oh, I should do this on a different, oh yeah, I should do this on a different layer. Hold up. Because, we don't have hoverboards, we don't have like that level of automation that you see in the second movie, all that stuff. That's not there in this timeline. But we have other like things, right? Like it might not be the same exactly, but it's like where our trajectories led us. Because there is no, as far as I'm aware, there is no Doc Brown in our universe, like a real one, not like a movie one. So because we don't have a Doc Brown, that's why we don't have that same trajectory that you see in the Back to the Future movies, particularly in the second movie where they go to like the 2015, their version of 2015 with all the hoverboards and everything. That's why we don't see that. And don't worry, it's not gonna actually cut off Marty here. I'm just scribbling it out, and then I'm gonna make it smaller as needed. Here we go. Back to the Future. Yeah, that's not bad. I liked it. Now we'll just color it in. But yeah, it's a really good movie. I was just uncomfortable rewatching it with my mother because I had forgotten how hungry Morty's mother is for him. Like, what do they call it? A reverse Oedipal thing, kind of, where the mom wants to get after the son. Yeah, that was really uncomfortable. I was like, I don't remember it being this steamy. Obviously, Marty isn't trying to do anything as far as we're aware, right? Maybe. But the mother, like, it is interesting to see that the movie proves to us that the only reason she got with Marty's father, George McFly, is because he got run over by her dad's car. And when Marty goes to 1955 and he, changes the future by becoming the one who gets run over by his grandfather's car, that's why Lorraine, his mother, gets the hots for him. Because it's Marty who's the one who got run over and not George anymore. George runs away because Marty catches him peeping. But so that just proves to us that it could have been anyone in front of that car who got run over by her father, and Lorraine probably almost instantly would have fallen in love with that person because she has some kind of weird, like, psychological kink or need that needs to be fulfilled before she can, I guess, enjoy herself in a relationship, really. And so just imagine this. Imagine if it was Biff, the villain. Imagine if Biff, the villain, got run over by her father's car. We would have seen a completely different timeline then at that point because now, well, Marty's not going to exist at all. There is no timeline there for Marty because Lorraine never gets with George McFly in any capacity as far as we're aware because now she's with Biff because Biff was the one who got hit. And but I guess if we are playing by movie logic, like Doc Brown probably would have never allowed that timeline to even exist, or if it did, he's tucked it away somewhere deep where it can't be touched, right? Because his main point is to ensure that Marty gets born. And that's why we see all these different timelines with Marty still alive or still there in some capacity, because Doc does feel a sense of gratitude and, like, well, Marty's his friend. He's grateful to Marty for saving his life against the terrorists, you know? He's grateful to Marty for, I guess, not judging him. He's kind of a crazy dude, mad scientist and all that. Marty kind of just tags along and chills out with him. He's his friend. So Doc Brown has incentive to keep Marty alive, number one. And number two, he's made it like one of his priorities to ensure that Marty has a good life. Because the whole plot of the second Back to the Future movie as well is to make sure that Marty doesn't mess up his future, right? It's pretty interesting. I think Doc Brown really cares for Marty almost like a son, especially since, well, up until the last movie, we Doc Brown doesn't have any family, dude. He's by himself. The whole Brown like estate burned down, and he's like living off the insurance money or something, right? But as far as we're aware, he has literally no family. Like nobody to be with him, no one to comfort him when he has his doubts or concerns about his own future, right? And maybe that's what propelled him to make the time machine. Maybe initially he wanted to go back in time to see his family, and see them one last time or change things so that they didn't leave or die, or we don't know. We don't really know what happened to everyone, right? Whatever it is, maybe that was his original purpose, to go back and change everything. But then he decides, oh, maybe I don't want to change anything, because if I do, I'd never meet Marty. And I think Marty is just really, really important to Doc at that point. In the movie, especially by the ending of the first movie, he's already trying to change Marty's future again for Marty's benefit. This isn't, as far as I'm aware, the only way that it benefits Doc Brown is that he now gets his happiness from making Marty happy. And so that's like Doc Brown's incentive, right? To keep messing with the future, since he no longer has any desire, as far as we're aware, to change it for himself per se. Or maybe he does change it for himself. We just don't see that in the movies, because the movies are more focused on the changes that occur with Marty's life than with what they occur in Doc's life. Because even in the third movie, you don't he's not Doc Brown isn't really changing his life that much. He's really just changing others' lives and like pulling them along, with his insane orbit and everything. Although I am glad that the third movie ends on a happy note with Doc Brown getting like his own family and stuff. So he doesn't have to rely on Marty being like the only family he has. So that was a good thing. But yeah, with this first movie, I will never get over how uncomfortable I felt watching the Lorraine Hot for Marty scenes with my mother. Probably won't do that again. If I watch the Back to the Future movies, I'll probably just watch it by myself, like, the other two, if I do a rewatch on those. Like I said, it's a really good movie. It is. You guys should definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it. It involves time travel, has a lot of sci-fi elements. It involves a lot of, I think they do a lot with the continuity. Like we even see one of the runner-ups for mayor. Like you could see him in 1955. He's running for mayor, and in the future, when Marty goes back to the future, he's a bum. He clearly didn't win re-election, or the election, not necessarily re-election, but he didn't win, so now he's just bumming around and he's on a bench and everything. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say. That bench that the bum is on, it says like California raisins. I wanted to talk about this. The raisins. There's an actual reason. I have the thing here somewhere. Hold up. Back to the Future. Raisins, yes. Okay. So the plan was to have California Raisins brand advertised on a bench in the movie and in a scene where Marty eats a box of the dried fruit. However, when the footage was watched back, Bob Gill opted to cut the scene of Marty eating the raisins, as was photographed more like he was eating a bowl of dirt. So California Raisins paid like a lot of money. I think it was like maybe 100,000 or more dollars to get raisins advertised in the movie. And they were supposed to have quite a few scenes from what I remember, and they ended up only having this scene where you see the bum, the mayor turned to a bum. You see him on a bench that has, and you could barely see it, California Raisins like right there in the back. Oh, here's a better image. You can see the whole bench. But yeah, and it's an obscured view. Like it's not even a full um bench view, you know what I mean? And they were mad. And I don't know if they ever got their money back or if per the contract it didn't they had like they it didn't specify some things, and maybe Back to the Future got to keep the money, the people who produced it or whatever. I have no idea, but I think that's funny that there were supposed to be all these raisin scenes, and this is the scene. This is the one we got, you guys. It's okay, because you know what? Not everyone likes raisins. And I can see why they cut it for the whole bowl of dirt thing, right? I don't know. But yeah, that's the vid. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your days, you guys.